Hi, this is Kimberly. This is a synopsis and a critique of Chapter 7 of My Daddy is a Hero, How Chris Watts Went from Family Man to Family Killer. This book is by Lena Derhally. The title of this chapter is I Fell in Love with Her. This chapter begins with Tammy stepping out of the room very quickly and without delay because she was afraid Chris and Shit's pants were about to explode in flames. Her gaming device had told her that he most definitely was a liar pants. CW felt like he was on pins and needles and his tummy was in knots, so he soothed himself by watching videos on his phone. He was pretty sure he heard Tammy say to herself as she was heading out the door, I'm telling. Tammy came back in with Mr. Coder, and they had a photograph of his daughters. They both had stopped smiling and being so cordial and shit. They looked really serious, and that scared Pinhead. Tammy had that mom look on her face, you know, the frown of strong disapproval that can stop you dead in your damn tracks. Tammy told him he didn't win that polygraph game. He was floored. He had tried so hard to concentrate and to maintain focus. He was putting into practice stuff that Shanann talked about when she allowed him to use the glue and scissors, when she allowed him to help her with his vision board. Why the fuck wasn't it working? She said it would work. Mr. Coder and Miss Tammy had scary looks on their faces. He hated when people would get mad at him. That's why he always tried to be a nice and agreeable guy. It all had started when he was a boy and Mommy would scare him. So he did his very best at being a good boy from then on. Tammy and Coder told Chris and Shit very sternly that he needed to start talking and to tell the truth this time. Well, he had been lying for so long now that he had forgotten how to tell the truth. Lying had been helping him avoid problems and angry people. It kind of made him feel lighthearted too. CW crossed his heart and offered to stick a needle in his eye and promised he didn't fib during the polygraph. Mr. Coder told CW to breathe because he was getting all anxious and shit. He didn't need half-wit to start hyperventilating and to pass the fuck out. Tammy told him the reason he kept getting tummy aches was because he was a big old liar pants, spewing horse shit. She told him there were gonna be no more games and he needed to stop the tomfoolery and start telling the truth, damn it. Tammy and Coder both knew Asshat knew where his pregnant wife and children were, and they were very good at prodding and pestering bad guys like him. Chris and Shit started whining. This pissed off Miss Tammy. She was getting fed up with this namby-pamby lying individual. She had just spent hours upon hours with him, and this peevishness shit was getting old. But the incessant whining went on about how he just wanted them to come home. He wished they would come home. He hopes they reappear. On and on and on. He was starting to get stubborn, and Tammy and Coder knew they were only minutes away from a full-blown tantrum. Coder told CW that he and Tammy were confused. Chris and Shit immediately felt better because he was in a perpetual state of confusion himself. He was glad they were all on the same wavelength and felt like they could all be friends again. Coder started buttering up CW, telling him what a great guy he was. Pinhead was in agreement with this. It was his life's mission to be a great guy. He was glad to see Mr. Coder showing admiration and respect for him. But now that all were in agreement about him being an awesome man, husband, and father, he wanted to talk about that some more. But he still stubbornly refused to tell them where his family was. CW didn't know how to keep up this defiant stance, as he was used to being complacent. Weisenheimer tried the talk to the hand because the face ain't listening thing, and Coder had to restrain himself from going off on him. But CW finally admitted that he had a secret, and that's why he lost at the polygraph game. He told them he knew that husbands weren't supposed to go out and get a girlfriend, and he felt guilty about that, and that is why he failed the polygraph. That is the reason and nothing more, so stop being mean. He knows he was not supposed to be doing acrobatics with Nikki with their clothes off, but he did it, and he's embarrassed. So take a chill pill and stop asking me where my family is because I don't know for Pete's sake, darn it all. Coder said he was proud of CW for being such a big boy and telling the truth. He said, "This is Chris the truth teller." It made CW feel all joyful and proud inside that he had made Mr. Coder happy again. Asshat told him that he loved Nikki, but he only called her because he didn't want to get her in trouble. He said, quote, "I don't want to get her involved in this. I don't want to ruin her life," Chris said. "I don't want her to get involved in this. She's a wonderful person. She knew I was married, yes. At the end, I told her I was going to get separated. When I saw her, she took my breath away, and never in a million years did I think that was going to happen. I never felt this way about anyone in my lifetime." Pinhead went on, gushing, speaking about his secret girlfriend with great energy and big enthusiasm in a wildly uncontrolled manner. Coder finally told him to shut the fuck up about Nikki and get back to talking about his missing family. Coder reminded CW that his father was out in the lobby and that he was going to find out that CW was lying. And well, don't make him take his belt off. Coder said he and Tammy already knew about Nikki and said the Alexa in his kitchen was programmed to record distress. CW was tired of all these machines. They could tell if you were lying, and now one could tell if someone had unhappiness. CW did his best to show some human-like traits and emotions, but he wasn't convincing at all. Coder started bad-mouthing Shanann to see if that would get CW to talk. That didn't work. Coder and Tammy knew that time was of the essence. They needed to find Shanann, Bella, and Cece, so they tried another angle. Coder asked if Shanann did something to the girls. The book said, quote, "Did Shanann do something to the girls?" Coder asked, end quote. "No, that was Tammy." "Oh, brother, here we go again. Now I'm going to have to check every little thing. I remember that Tammy said this. I remembered it from going over the story so many times. This part is about to get boring as I point out some fucking errors in the book." The book said, quote, Coder told Chris that he found it odd that he described an emotional conversation with his wife in which they were both crying, but he hadn't shed one tear since his family vanished without a trace. He didn't appear to be upset at all, end quote. Discovery page 601, Tammy Lee's report says, "I told Chris I found it hard to believe he and Shanann had an emotional conversation with Shanann where they both were crying and he had yet to shed one tear in the 2 days we interviewed him," end quote. The book said, quote, Coder tried a different tactic trying to get Chris to confess to a lesser crime. He asked Chris if there had been an accident. Discovery page 601, Tammy Lee's report says, "I asked Chris if it was an accident, and he replied, 'I didn't do anything.' I again asked Chris if it was an accident, and he said there was not an accident, and if there was, he wasn't in the house when it occurred." The book says, quote, "Did Shanann do something to them, and did you feel that you had to do something to her?" Coder said, end quote. Discovery page 601, Tammy Lee's report says, quote, "I asked Chris, did Shanann do anything to them, and did you feel like you had to do something to Shanann?" The book says, quote, bringing up the video footage from neighbor Nate, Coder reminded Chris that the only way his family could have left the house was in his truck. Shanann was seen entering the home by the doorbell camera and then never leaving the house again. Coder reminded him that the truck had a GPS that would ping every 10 minutes. They would know every single movement Chris made that morning, end quote. Discovery page 601, Tammy Lee's report says, "I reminded Chris his truck had GPS installed. I asked Chris if he knew the GPS would ping every 10 seconds, and he said yes. I told Chris we were going to find out exactly where he went." The book says, quote, Coder continued to further push the idea that Shanann may have done something that would give Chris a reason to hurt her. He told Chris he knew that sometimes mistakes happened and offered stories of cases he had personally worked on, specifically stories of parents who had murdered their own children. One story was about a mother who had smothered her children because she didn't want her husband to take them away from her. This mother believed she was doing right right by her children because in her mind she was saving them from pain. Why? Chris asked, completely dumbfounded and not connecting with the story. How's she saving them pain? She didn't want them to have a life without her, Coder said. Chris still looked puzzled. Discovery page 601, Tammy Lee's report says, I told Chris it could have been an accident because I knew something happened inside his house. I asked Chris if something happened to his baby girls, and then he felt like he needed to take something into his own hands and deal with it. Discovery page 602, Tammy Lee's report says, I told Chris I have also worked on a case where a mother smothered her 2 children because she didn't want her husband to take them away from her. I told Chris I believed either he or Shanann made a mistake. I told Chris I was getting concerned that maybe he did something to all 3 of them. Chris said I did not do anything to these kids. I asked Chris what Shanann did to the girls and he immediately asked if he could talk to his dad. The book said, quote, finally, Coder cut to the chase. He gave Chris 2 options to choose from. Either Chris did something to all 3 of them or Shanann had done something, end quote. So basically, she's given Coder credit for Tammy's hard work. Coder was good too, but damn, let's get this shit right. Don't do that shit. Double, triple, quadruple check your shit. I'm gonna take a star off for this shit. This is just, it's unforgivable. It's very unfavorable. I truly hope this is the only place in the book that she did not give sufficient attention or thought to, therefore creating errors, blunders, fuck-ups, screw-ups. She was negligent, remiss, careless, slipshod, amateurish, disorganized, hurried, half-assed, scatterbrained, harebrained. But CW finally got tired and asked for Daddy. This game they tricked him into playing was going on 5 hours. He was tired and needed Daddy and something to eat. So Tammy and Coder went and got Daddy. He was wearing his baby blue Paparani shirt. They told him CW wanted to talk to him and wanted to tell him all of what had happened. They let him know that it was all going to be recorded. Paparani said he understood and went in to see his son. So immediately lies started tumbling out of CW's ugly mouth. He lied on Shanann and said that she had hurt the girls and that he lost his shit and did it back to her. When he told his father about the affair, Paparani did not seem shocked. In fact, he held his composure together pretty good considering he just found out his pregnant daughter-in-law and 2 granddaughters were dead. And not just dead, but disposed of in a horrifying and despicable manner. But Ronnie asked his dim-witted son for more details. CW first said Shanann smothered them. Then he said she strangled them. If that had been my son, I would have developed one of those impulsive violence episodes and slapped the fucking shit out of him, upside and back and top of his bankrupt head, and said, fucking tell me what the goddamn hell happened. Right now, goddammit. But Papa Ronnie is more mellow. But if you look closely at the video of this, he is flipping the fuck out in his own little way. Ronnie, bless his heart, believed what Numbskull told him. He tried to comfort his son and promised him a good lawyer. Meanwhile, out at Survey 319, they were searching the area with a drone, as they knew from CW's work truck GPS. This is where Chris and shit had gone first thing Monday morning. They found the missing bedsheet from the house, so that was a huge fucking red flag. It was near the area of Shanann's shallow grave, and the investigators could tell the dirt had been recently disturbed. Tammy and Coder brought in a picture from Survey 319, an aerial shot from the drone. CW initialed it where everyone's body was hidden. So, we are rehashing the same fucking story over and over and over ad nauseum. I am still very bored. And now I am pissed that the author said Coder said the shit that Tammy said. There goes my confidence in her. And I'm still waiting on psychological stuff. Oh, she said something about how Coder was stroking Asshat's ego. But even I can see that. For Pete's sake, for crying out loud. I want some fucking deeper insight. However, the bodies were recovered, and the next day on Thursday, Chris and Shit's lover dramatically asked the agents to pick her up from her home to bring her into the police station for her interview. And her daddy met her there and was present for her interview because her and Chris and shit can't do anything without daddy. Maybe that's why this is called My Daddy is a Hero or whatever that shit is, Zero. I'm tired of this. This chapter is long as hell. The author is telling the story of Nikki and Christopher, and I'm sick to death of rehashing it. She got it from Discovery and from YouTube videos, and we can all do that shit for free. I skimmed over this chapter once I found out she got the shit wrong about Coder and Tammy. See why I have trust issues? Just when I thought I should start trusting her, she fucked up the chapter. I already did this story with the last book. I was really hoping for some new shit. In all fairness, we do get a bit of new enlightened shit. For example, this is a fresh description of NK. The book says, quote, Nikki was wearing her thin dark hair in a messy ponytail pulled high on her head. It looked as if she had not washed it in days, and the rest of her appearance seemed in equal disarray. Her sunglasses were pushed on top of her head, and she had bags under her eyelids. She wore a gray zip-up pullover, jeans with ripped holes in them, and sneakers, end quote. And this is kind of new. Quote, interestingly, Chris felt he could be more of himself around Nikki and called Shanann bossy, yet Nikki seemed to be calling the shots in her relationship with him. Chris would often go to her for advice, and Nikki would advise him on clean eating, counting calories, apartment hunting, and helping young children through divorce, end quote. And this, quote, when Chris was in North Carolina, supposedly trying to patch things up with Shanann, he told Nikki he loved her. Nikki claimed her reaction to him was hesitant because she wanted him to try and work things out with Shanann. Don't say those words to me, try to make peace with your wife, and then lay in bed with another woman, Nikki said she told him. These statements were somewhat confusing because Nikki was acting like she was trying to push Chris away, but at the same time willingly engaging with him and communicating with him daily. End quote. Yeah, she was sending him nude selfies, told him to patch shit up with Shanann, and then got pissed off asking if he was sleeping with her. You mean his wife? But the chapter points out that Nikki and her beau Chris and shit were contradictory. No surprise there. Like Nikki said, he was in the process of getting a separation when Chris said she knew he was married when they started dating. They just contradicted each other all the effing time. This was kind of interesting that I had not heard before. Quote, Nikki knew about the blowout fight between Shanann and Chris's family when they were in North Carolina. Nikki vaguely knew the fight had to do with Chris's mom, Cindy, exposing Cece to nuts, despite her life-threatening allergy. Chris told Nikki when he got to North Carolina, his family didn't pick up the phone for a few days. When he finally showed up at their house, he found a note that said, Son, if you stop by, we're at the beach. Do people still leave notes? Why didn't they send him a text? Just saying. In Nikki's words, the Watts family, quote, ignored Chris most of the time he was out there, end quote. So the author basically followed the synopsis of Agent Co back in Discovery page 568 is the beginning. Is this true about the note? Does anyone know? Please tell me in the comments if you know about this. I don't recall that they left Son a note. I couldn't find it in the Discovery, and I didn't hear about it in her interview. Of course, I couldn't listen to the whole damn thing because it was getting on my last damn nerve. Her stupid ass fake crying and shit. I just couldn't. So, in NK's interview, she said Chris told her a wild story that Shanann had asked him to wake her up before he left for work on that Monday morning. Chris said he went to get her up and she just started being pretty mean. And that is meaner than just plain mean. Out of the blue, she told Chris that she is pregnant and said the kid wasn't his. NK asked Shitbag if he believed Shanann was pregnant, and Fuckface said she was showing. For some asinine reason, attorneys, and NK said that Chris's story was believable, especially that he thought Shanann was trying to trick him, and maybe she said she was pregnant out of spite and really wasn't. Does any of this shit make sense? No, it doesn't. So on Tuesday during her lunch break, NK searched the entire internet and found out that Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant. She became alarmed as hell because 4-month pregnant women would be showing, and she knew Chris and shit was lying then. And she didn't know anything about the pregnancy beforehand. So she confronted Dumbass about Shanann being 15 weeks pregnant, and Chris was like, does this ruin our relationship? Because he was like, I looked it up on the interwebs and I think I'm in love with you. Because I didn't know what that funny feeling was, and I thought I might need to go to the doctor for an STD or something. Turns out that I found out that that's what feeling in love feels like. And Nikki just cut him out of her life. She told Pinhead to go fuck himself. He was confused and wondered if that meant she was feeling amorous. Dunderhead wasn't getting it, so Nikki told him to stop lying to her and to go to fucking hell. She was like, he was creeping me the fuck out. He's just worried about our relationship instead of looking for his family. Shithead was taken aback and didn't understand why Nikki was so cross with him. Nikki said she saw the interview with Fart Face and said his eyes looked different and it looked like he did not have a soul. Well, that's because his dumbass had recently sold it to the devil. Nikki claimed to have wished she had come in earlier to speak with the authorities, but it took her a few days to ponder and mull over the dramatic and negative recent happenings. I'm thinking she needed to get really high, too. And then I found this in the Discovery, and I need someone to explain it to me. With all the confusion of Chris and shit and his illicit girlfriend Nikki, confusion and the pandemonium is affecting me, and I need help in figuring out what in God's name this is talking about. Discovery page 575 said, Nicole thought if she was not in Chris's life, his family might still be alive, but not permanently. What? Is she fucking high? What does that even mean? Permanently? I mean, if I read the part underneath it, I guess it makes sense. Is she saying Chris and shit would have done this eventually because of their financial mess? I mean, no one seemed bothered about being basically out of money. They were still going out to eat, going on vacation, buying airline tickets to North Carolina and back, going on outings and purchasing an unnecessary and expensive 4D ultrasound of the baby Shanann was carrying. All of these things had to be paid for up front. They had court coming up for their non-paid HOA dues. Mortgage was late. They were 3 years out from a bankruptcy. Nothing effing changed. I would love to see all of the text messages between Asshat and Shanann. Did they ever talk about running out of money? About how they were going to pay for school/daycare? About tightening up their effing bootstraps? About how they were going to rob Peter to pay Paul? Come to think of it, maybe Nikki is right about that. Here's a bit more to go with that statement that I just went off on. Quote, Nicole thought if she was not in Chris's life, his family might still be alive, but not permanently. She does not believe he just snapped. Nicole does not think she is the only catalyst for this event. She does believe that being in Chris's life may have accelerated the process. She said Chris and Shanann did not get along well, and their financial life was also troubling. She said Chris was struggling with finances, and now he had a third kid on the way, and she does not know if he could afford another kid. Shanann was not responsive to this financial trouble. Nicole said Chris always told her he wanted a third child and wanted a boy. Nicole said she is very financially stable, and Chris said he did not know women like her existed. Nicole feels money is the biggest catalyst for this event happening. End quote. That little damsel just may be onto something. Why was Chris and shit blabbing all of their financial business to her? Land sakes alive, I have gotten way off topic. However, If you want to know more about the Watts family finances, I'm going to give you the links to the channel called 411 Now. He did a 3-part series that is very well researched. He spent, I think he said 3 months on it, and it's very interesting and eye-opening. I really recommend that you watch this. It'll be linked in the description below. And isn't it ironic that I was just bitching about Chris and shit, blabbing all of his and Shanann's financial business to NK, and then I turn around and tell you where you can go to get more detailed information and really dig deep into their finances. Oh well, I learned this kind of shit from my mom. May God rest her beautiful soul. And this is from the book. Quote, on August 19th, after her initial interview, Nikki conducted multiple internet searches related to Amber Frey, the former girlfriend of Scott Peterson, convicted killer of his wife Lacey Peterson, who was 9 months pregnant at the time. Shortly before Scott murdered Lacey, he was living a double life and having an affair with Amber Frey, whom he told he was widowed. Remember, he gave her this sob story. Amber had always been a sympathetic character in the media and in the public eye because it was obvious that she was completely unaware that she was involved with a married man. Equally important, without her testimony, Scott Peterson might have gotten away with murder. Nikki might have been looking to elicit sympathy for herself, given that the Watts family murders had similarities to Lacey's murder. Nikki may have thought she could find a way to show the public she was a victim, the same way Amber had been. As you will see, those closely following the case did not view Nikki as a victim once the police discovery documents were made public. End quote. Yeah, the discovery documents, released by Weld County's District Attorney, November 2018. It was an event that took some unexpected turns and has been marked by chaos and controversy. Oh hell, let's call it what it is. It was a freaking shit show. Now remember, a shit show is not to be confused with a clusterfuck. Clusterfucks are preventable. If you will remember, Letters from Christopher is an excellent example of a clusterfuck. A clusterfuck begins with the individual mistakenly thinking a goal is more attainable than it is. Fueled with impatience and incompetence, you have the makings of a perfectly formed clusterfuck. Now, the shit show was what happened when the discovery was made public. This shit was badly organized, unpleasant, and full of confusion. Boy, there were some people embarrassed when that shit came out. Servers were being shut down and all sorts was going on in Denver, Colorado, and Frederick and Weld County. The author does a better job of piecing shit together as far as making the story flow. But what is new? Nothing is new in this chapter and in this book so far. I mean, few tidbits here and there, but it's an easier to read condensed discovery is what it is, or more entertaining condensed discovery. Miss Lena, please make me impressed. I am not impressed. Nor am I impressed with Chris and shit being a fucktard reject dodo bird, ass cactus, stupid head, fuck lunkhead loser, wide dick, wide schmuck, sloth, piss in the wind, foolish, contempt, dunderhead, couldn't organize a piss up in a brewery, butt slug, clumsy, fuck up, blowhard, doesn't know his ass from his elbow, bitch face, douche lord, shit lord, doo-doo head, blowhard, asshole weed, mushball head, half-ass dipshit, poop head, dickweed, you suck, dirty donkey balls. And that will be the end of this video. I'll pick up with chapter 8 in the next one. I'm tired from doing this video. It took all fucking day and I'm starting to feel dizzy and shit. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for the world so thank you for the world so sweet. Thank you for the food we eat. Thank you for the birds that sing. Thank you, God, for everything. Amen. Yeah, Knuckles.
Right now at 6, we see more of the evidence in the case of the Watts family in Frederick, murdered by the husband and father. The newly released evidence shows more of the prosecutor's case against Christopher Watts.
Dylan Thomas has covered this case for months now for us. Dylan joins us now from the newsroom with what this evidence is showing us. Dylan.
Yeah, some of the video has been released. We've been waiting months ago for this video to be released, but the Weld County office finally released it today. And by the time they released it with so much attention on this case, their website crashed, forcing them to take down the 66 video and audio recordings, which they released today. But here is what we were able to download. Security video from the morning Shanann, Bella, and Celeste were murdered shows Chris Watts calmly walking out to his truck, starting it and backing it into his driveway. Now, the video from a neighbor's security camera shows how that view was kind of obstructed by a garage wall and a tree, but we do see Watts wearing a black shirt and jeans, calmly walking in and out of his garage from his truck. At one point, he is seen carrying a gas can, possibly pouring something into the bed of that truck. The district attorney says Watts loaded his young daughters and pregnant wife into that truck. That was when the video was recorded. And as the sun rises, he drove them all off to an oil drilling property where he worked. Police used the GPS in his truck to see where he went after he murdered his family. And that's ultimately how they found Bella, Celeste, and the two daughters in crude oil containers, and then Shanann was located nearby in a shallow grave. Now, other files set for release today included Watts' polygraph test, his confession tape, interviews with friends, and even an extended interview with his mistress. But due to the Weld County website crashing, those files won't be re-released until tomorrow. Make sure to visit cbsdenver.com in the meantime to see the files we were able to obtain. Dylan Thomas covering Colorado First.
All right, Dylan, thank you.
Do it, Cece.
RCC, here we go, Steelers, here we go.
You want to do it again, Bella? Ready?
Here we go, Steelers.
Daddy, don't say it.
Now, go ahead.
No, I have something in my mouth.
Okay. You ready?
Here we go, Steelers.
Here we go.
I say it by myself.
Okay, go ahead.
Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.
Good job. Cece, you do it. Kirsty wants you to help her.
Here we go, Steelers, here we go.
Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. Hey, hey.
Good job, baby.